Hello, BookTube. I'm here with a Spring Into Adventure video. A little different than normal. As many of you are aware, that Mark at Book Time with Elvis and myself revised and changed our August of Adventures that we did almost 2 years ago with the help of other booktubers, and we've started Spring Into Adventure. Originally only April, but we're extending it to May as well. And the other booktubers involved that are co-hosts is Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads, Alan at Big Hard Books and Classics, Jim at Murder and Mayhem, Mark, as I say, at Book Time with Elvis, myself, and Debs at Rayner Reads Stuff. And I'll leave a link to all their channels, and you could look at their content. And we're doing lives as well every Friday, if you haven't noticed. Now, adventure covers it's got a broad umbrella, and there's fiction and nonfiction, but also science fiction can be under that umbrella as well. So I want to bring you just a little overview of a science fiction magazine, a digest magazine, British science fiction magazine that ran from 1958 to 1963. And that magazine was called Science Fiction Adventures. Now, that was published by Nova Publications, who at the time was already publishing New Worlds and science fantasy magazines, which were very popular. I'll get to a little bit more of that first of all. But the editor for the British edition was John Carnell, who was the editor of New Worlds as well. And it was basically a reprint, or it started out as a reprint of the American science fiction adventures that was edited by Larry T. I always forget his name, Larry T. Shaw. But that ran from 56 to 58. So the first few issues were total reprints from the American issue, or the American version of this. And I'm not going to go into too much detail of every one, because there's I have a complete run here. I think it's 31. I think it's 31 or 30 issues. So I'll just show covers and just highlight a few things. So the first issue came out in 1958, and this is volume 1, number 1. And as I say, this reprinted a number, they call it 3 complete action novels. Well, they're short novels, let's put it that way. The Slave by C.M. Cornbluth, Chalice of Death, Calvin M. Knox, and Yesterday's Man, Elgis Budrys. Now, they reprinted the Larry T. Shaw's editorial from the first issue of the American version of this. Basically, the idea of this magazine was that he was lamenting the fact that the sense of wonder and adventure had gone out of science fiction, more or less, by this time. So hence starting this. And John Carnell thought the same, and he thought that, well, for British and Australian, there isn't really any gateway magazine into science fiction. So they picked up Science Fiction Adventures. And as I say, it was meant to be a reprint, and the idea was to reprint longer pieces as well. So they went ahead and continued on, and this is number 2. And just some fabulous covers here on these magazines. Usually, like the Emish was, I think, or the cover illustrating One Against Herculum by Rabois or something, from an original by Schooner. So they've redid some stuff from American ones, but just some great covers. And as I say, I'm not going to go too much. I'm just going to highlight a few things. But they continued on. Number 3. And just again, fabulous cover art. Number 4. Number 5. And as I say, I may very well do a more detailed view of these magazines at some point. Now, this number 5 was the last of the reprints, and the reason for that is the American Science Fiction Adventures magazine went defunct. So Carnell and Nova decided to continue with the British version of science fiction adventures, but use for the most part, new writing from British and Australian writers. So it became a popular magazine that was in the stable for Nova Publications, which, as I say, included New Worlds and science fantasy. And they just continued on, and I'm gonna just show the magazines here, just the covers, and it's like I say, I'm not gonna go too much. This has a James White story in. Just wonderful artwork, and it's very much like the design with the border around it is very much like Galaxy magazine at the time, and it was a popular sort of way of doing things as well. And this one has well, it says science fiction by leading writers, but yeah, they're new writings from British and American writers, and John Carnell stated that basically it's going to be better writing than the reprints, but they didn't just use all new writings. They also did still use some reprints from American magazines. And yeah, this has an EC Tub in it. And yeah, I'll just go on through. This is number 11. Just wonderful, and you can tell by the cover art that there is a lot of action in this. So we've got a Robert Silverberg shorts, and this is where we're getting short stories starting to creep in as well. Carnell wanted to really keep the short stories for New Worlds, but then you got a Keith Bulmer here, a longer story by Keith Bulmer, and another James White. And again, the tagline, outstanding science fiction. And a lot of when the changeover came from the reprints to the original science fiction, that was it still was popular, but there was many that were lamenting the fact that they wanted the reprints more than the new material. And a lot of great stories that have been through here. Like we got another Keith Bulmer and EC Tubb, and a lot of the material has never been republished. It has never been reprinted either. And let's see here. We got a Brian Aldiss here. I think I showed that. Yeah. So we got a Brian Aldiss story in this one. And we've got another EC Tubb and a Brian Aldiss novelette. Some of the novelettes have been reprinted, but not everything. Now I'll grab the next pile here. And this one's a wonderful one. And as I say, it really does show how the adventure comes in with the covers. And we've got another Kenneth Bulmer in this one. And we've got Kenneth Bulmer, E.C. Tubb again. And, it's stating that it's a Nova science fiction magazine, which, New Worlds is a huge magazine in the history, especially British magazines, but also for science fiction as a whole, because after John Carnell left, Michael Moorcock took over and really pushed the new wave science fiction through New Worlds. And this is it's very muted color, just a two color or one color actually, and then black and white. That's Design Dilemma. Nilsson Sherwood. Is it just one story? No, there's a couple. There's a Gordon R. Dixon short story in here. So it's not just, and that's probably the reprint material. So we've got Kenneth Bulmer and Robert Silverberg. Now we got the change, as you saw with this one, the change of design. No longer the border. It's just the text over the picture. Now it looks like he's holding Edgar there. Edgar's been around. So yeah. So Edgar's on this one. Uh, that is covered by Lewis. So yeah, it's a. I think it's from a Kenneth Bulmer story for that one. And then we continue on here with William F. Temple, which probably was a. It might have been a reprint. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look at that. But yeah, just wonderful artwork here. This one's by Lewis again. Cover is by Lewis. And we've got, yeah, the writers that I doubt any of these have been reprinted. Lan Wright, David Rome, W.T. Webb. So there you go. And yeah, as I say, the American version of this, or the original version, died. It went out of business in 1958, and hence after the sixth issue onward, they continued on. And it's the only British science fiction magazine that continued after its sort of mother publication had died, because there were lots of reprints that popped up here in the UK during the 50s, but this was the only one that actually continued on. And as I say, it continued on until 1963, where they were losing money, and it's John Carnell wanted to protect New Worlds as well as science fantasy, so they decided to put this on hiatus. They were hoping to bring it back, but it never happened. So there we got a Michael Moorcock story in this one here, and this is number 25. This is number 62. So we're getting down to near the end of the magazine. So we got Nielsen Sherwood, John Brunner again, and there were only occasional science articles in here, and I don't believe there was any letters section at all, or occasionally maybe in the editorial they would refer to letters from readers. And you see, John Brunner was a mainstay in this magazine, because every other one for sure has a John Brunner. And here we got Nielsen Sherwood. And we're getting right down to the nubbins, to near the end. So another one, The Sounded Worlds by Michael Moorcock. An interesting cover. And we've got 3 more to go here. Yes, and this is The Rainmakers by John Rackham, and this is 1962. And if I didn't say it, it was a bi-monthly magazine as well, so it lasted, as I say, from 58 to 1963. And we got another John Brunner in here. It's an interesting cover. Cover painting by Gerald Quinn. And the last issue, which, like one of the others, had, just one color and black. A Task for Calvi Ian Wright, and The Blood Red Game by Michael Moorcock. So Michael Moorcock got into the very last issue of this magazine, and that was in 1963. So yeah, as I say, it's a very brief look at it. I haven't, it would take a long time to go through each magazine and talk about it, which I will eventually. Sometime I'll be reading some of the material. A lot of this material I have not read, and that's the one thing that's exciting. I've read a lot of 1950s science fiction, but even in Canada, it was rare. I never saw these magazines in Canada, so it's very nice to see these. And I also have another run of another magazine, a British magazine called Nebula, science fiction, which was a Scottish magazine. So look forward to that in the future. I do want to prepare the video a little better for that because it's a very interesting magazine in of itself. Anyway, thank you. And if you do want to see more regarding these magazines, then do let me know. And are you familiar with science fiction adventures? As I say, it was a magazine that I had heard of, I've read about, but I'd never ever seen it until recently when I got a complete set of these. 31, I think it was. Yeah, no, 32. 32 issues of science fiction adventures. So yeah, I will leave the links to my co-hosts for science for Spring Into Adventure. And yeah, so let's start reading some science fiction for Spring Into Adventure. Thank you, BookTube.